Hello everyone. In this video I'm going to talk about the church calendar and lectionary and stuff like that. And first, I'm just going to quickly try to make a brief statement on the lectionary. What a lectionary is it's basically a calendar for reading the Bible. And there are yearly lectionaries, some where it's like you just read through the Bible once a day for the whole year, and it's like it's when you read what verses, and it kind of goes through it like that. And then there's usually the church lectionaries, and the church that I go to, and most Protestant churches in the United States and Canada, seem to use what's called the Revised Common Lectionary, which is over 3 years. There's year A for the Gospel of Matthew, because there's always a gospel reading on, usually at church services. Year B for the Gospel of Mark, and year C for the Gospel of Luke. They kind of spread John around during different parts. And when I see it as important, I'll comment on when, while going through the church here, I'll comment on when I feel the need to bring up like passages, what Bible, what parts of the, stuff about the lectionary. Not able to talk, I'm speaking in tongues. Okay. Anyway, how I'm going to go through the church here in this video is I'm going to show off my neckties, or primarily just the ties that I wear. But first, just for laughs, this is a tie I got when I was a kid. It's a kid's tie. It's a Christmas tie. Yeah. And my uncle and aunt really like giving me ties, so that's... I'm not sure if I've ever bought a necktie they give me, but I have a huge collection of ties. I'm a guitarist, and I'm a musician. This is a tie that I think my uncle or aunt gave me, I forgot who, but it's guitars. I wore it for my senior guitar recital in college, because I majored in guitar performance. And that was the tie I wore. But this other tie is the tie I wish I had at that time that I would have worn. I got this tie for Christmas just after graduating high school. I think from my uncle's wife's mother. So technically my aunt's mother, or my great-aunt, whatever. Great-aunt-in-law, I don't know. But anyway, to go through the church here, an analogy I've given has been Lord of the Rings. I think another analogy could be Harry Potter, because Harry Potter is more of a series, and it's like we have kind of then it ends and then the next episode happens. I'm also going to use my Lord of the Rings analogy, but yeah, anyway, let's start with Advent. Now the color that's usually used for Advent, it's like the pastor's chasuble, basically the robe thing that he wears, is usually blue, and they're always somewhat artfully decorated. And this was the tie that I used, but my uncle and aunt bought me another blue paisley tie that I think might work even better. I mean, it's basically the same design. I think this one sort of glows a bit more, looks a little bit different. And I mean, it's sort of a grayish shade of blue, but yeah, Advent is the time of preparation. And I guess it could be like the time where in Lord of the Rings, it could be the time where they're preparing for the party, or just getting ready. Although I think a better analogy in the case of Advent is the like I'm going to use Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone specifically. Harry Potter living with the Dursleys, it's terrible, but then during that time he finds out that he's a wizard, gets ready for the school year at Hogwarts and all that. And so we have sort of that as a time of preparation. And Advent it's thought of as a festive time, but it's much more quiet. But for me, I always feel that there's kind of a build-up towards Christmas, the very festive, happy time. The color that they usually use during Christmas is white, not green or red. It's I'm talking about what the pastor's chasuble, the cloth that is sometimes used in addition to other, yeah. But this Christmas is actually also is a 12-day holiday, but it's the festive time, it's the fun time, it's a big celebration. Like Lord of the Rings, it can be thought of as Bilbo's big birthday party, or Harry Potter. It's the beginning of the school year, the feast, where they start out the school, where they arrive, sorted into their houses, yay, fun, happy, yay, great, excited about the new year. Then we get to Epiphany, the Harry Potter year. It's when they start working. Lord of the Rings, I guess it could be when Frodo sets out on his way to Rivendell. He leaves home with the ring, Frodo and Sam alone. Or it could be when Frodo's just simply given the ring now. But anyway, Epiphany, I guess, really the beginning of the real working time. We've had the celebrations, now it's time to get to work. And Epiphany is basically one day, but then we have what's referred to as time after Epiphany. People call it ordinary time. This is the tie I wear during that. There are two ordinary times. There's also time after Pentecost, which I'll get to. And I wear this tie for that as well. The usual color for that is green, for just typical things. Just a typical day, no big special holiday. Green is the color of renewal. Yes, I know, pagan symbolism. I don't care. I have a lot of respect and love for pagans and paganism, and I'm perfectly fine acknowledging that Christianity does have, definitely is a lot of, not roots in paganism, but a lot of elements of paganism taken from it. I think, to get off topic and get rambly, Christianity really, I feel, is rooted in Judaism. But anyway, Epiphany, time after Epiphany and all that. Now we get to basically what is, it's the part of the adventure story that's told. That's primarily the focus of the story. And Harry, Ron, and Hermione find out about the Sorcerer's Stone, or the dog, or the Fellowship of the Ring is put together, and they leave Rivendell and go on their journey. Now the color for Lent is usually purple, and this is actually kind of a grayish shade of purple. It's a fairly simple pattern. And Lent is, people give things up for Lent. I give a lot of things up for Lent. They try to really find things outside. Lent is, for me, my favorite part of the church year. It's 40 days, then there's Holy Week. And Holy Week starts, Holy Week I think of as the climactic part. If there are things I fell away from giving up during Lent, or I started finding loopholes, it's during Holy Week where I spend a week re-giving those things up and giving up the loopholes that I had found as well, and really then try to get even more serious if possible. And the color that's typically worn, and that's where the pastor wears a red chasuble. And oh yeah, during Lent, the cross is usually covered up with purple cloth. And some churches then, starting on Palm Sunday, that's the first day of Holy Week, some churches cover the cross with a red cloth instead now, but at the church I go to, we cover it with a purple cloth. Now this is where I'm going to talk a little bit about the lectionary. On Palm Sunday, although it's sort of partially about sort of Jesus' entrance into Jerusalem on the donkey with people holding up their palm branches, but the main Bible reading for that day is a crucifixion reading. And each year we switch between Matthew, Mark, and Luke. Although there have been people who've commented that maybe we should have the 3 years be Matthew, Luke, and John. And I'll get into where Mark can be used in the lectionary in just a bit, when we get to that point of the church year. But yeah, and I'm thinking, for Good Friday, which I'll get to, they can switch between those 3 crucifixion narratives, and for Palm Sunday, they can use sort of Jesus' entry into Jerusalem, or his entry into things before everything went crazy. And I also wear this for Maundy Thursday. It's basically shortly before Jesus' crucifixion. There's the washing of the feet. It's sort of in some ways, I guess, his final goodbye. And at the end of the Maundy Thursday service, which is obviously on a Thursday, they strip away everything from the altar. They take all the decorations away, strip it away. The pastor removes his red chasuble, or her, but at my church it's a he. Some of the student pastors are women. Great. Our bishop is a woman. Okay, but anyway, the pastor removes his or her chasuble, and they strip everything away. They turn off the organ, turn the lights down, dim them. Then the next day is Good Friday, where we get to the crucifixion narrative. And it's this, the traditional color is supposedly black, but my pastor doesn't wear a chasuble. And I think at many churches they don't. They just simply wear their basic robe, like what everyone else wears. So, yeah. And I thought a plain black tie was perfect for it. I found this tie at a thrift store. I was about to buy it, but anyway. Now let's get to the other part of the church year I was talking about. The day after Good Friday is Holy Saturday, and I do crazy things for Holy Saturday. I'm not going to get into detail on that, but mostly to keep myself from, it's almost over, to kind of really make it this difficult day. And then we have, at the end, at night, supposedly it's supposed to happen at midnight, but no. Is the Easter Vigil, which is a very long church service, I'll admit. And so there's sort of readings in the dark, or the candlelight. We do several readings leading up to the resurrection, basically talking about prophecies of the Messiah and things like this. Start reading read quite a few things from Genesis. Start at the beginning, and here's where here's where I feel the Gospel of Mark comes in for the lectionary. This is my own idea. What might not be that good an idea, but what someone suggested said that I heard that this might have actually happened in the past. I heard that in the past they would read the Gospel of Mark all the way through as kind of a summary for the the church lectionary. It is kind of a shorter gospel, it kind of just a right to the point gospel. So I thought that would be pretty cool. I mean, it's long enough as it is, and then a 2 hour, like, take about 2 hours to read through it. I wouldn't mind, but yeah, I thought it would be kind of cool. But yeah, and then after the whole candlelit stuff, there's this big thing about Jesus is risen and this. They turn the lights on, they remove the cloth that had been covering the cross. There's kind of this, basically it's now sort of a typical church service, and it's very festive and joyous and happy, and the gospel reading then, as I said, they kind of do a normally formatted church service. The gospel reading is the resurrection narrative from the Gospel of John. In some ways we could possibly do the first 15 chapters of the Gospel of Mark, then have the big proclamation, and then when we get to the gospel reading, read Mark's narrative. But that's if we change it. During the Easter Vigil now, what they do is they just read from John's narrative. Then the next day is Easter Sunday, and now let's get to this tie. This is my Easter tie. There's on Easter Sunday there's a Hawaiian shirt that I wear it with that it works really well. It goes well with some of the decorations of palms on Easter Sunday, and also on Palm Sunday. But yeah, Easter Sunday. And for the lectionary, for the gospel readings on Easter Sunday, they alternate with whatever gospel it is of the year. Year of Matthew, Matthew's resurrection. Year of Mark, Mark's resurrection. Year of Luke, Luke's resurrection. Yeah, you kind of get the point. And yeah, Easter's basically typically 49 days, and some people consider Pentecost the final day of Easter. And typically the color for Easter is white or gold or yellow. And then Pentecost, it's red. But Easter is basically Jesus is resurrected. Back into the Harry Potter narrative. It's where he defeats Voldemort. Or in Lord of the Rings, it's kind of Holy Week. Holy Week is kind of the battle with Voldemort and all that, where Harry gets to meeting Professor Quirrell, or when Frodo and Sam are in Mount Doom, Easter Vigil, or for Good Friday or whatever. Goes throwing into the fire, and then Easter is it's a continuation of the journey. In Harry Potter, the story isn't quite finished. He has to learn a little bit more about how Voldemort and Quirrell became ashes when he touched them, and how he was able to get the stone. In Lord of the Rings, there's this big, long story about them returning home. In the book, it's even longer than in the movies. Then Pentecost is kind of the end of the part of the journey that's been told. In Lord of the Rings, it's where Sam turns home and says, "Well, I'm back." And in Harry Potter, with Harry Potter, Pentecost is kind of the equivalent of Harry and his friends getting on the train to go back home until the next year. So at the end of the year, and then we have what's referred to as time after Pentecost. And I wear this tie, except instead of wearing the light shirt for time after Epiphany, I wear a red shirt. Or a shirt that's primarily red, maybe, but yeah. But that's what I do. That's sort of the church year. This is a long video, but thank you for watching. And thank you very much if you made it through this entire video. Shalom.